I just want to point out, I got ad space up there if anybody wants it. I don't know what the price is, but it's probably not too expensive. Welcome into the FF Forge, the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve, and we're just going to go over the injury report as of Friday, about 6:45 Eastern Standard Time. As of recording this video, I will have my updated rankings over to the side for all the positions. I will switch that throughout the video, try to give them all roughly equal timing, and at the end of the video, I will have my DFS slate of the week, and you can use it or tweak it if you wish. And then we'll find out how I did last week as well with my slate. Let's get into this thing. Alright, honestly, I planned on just having the little intro thing at the beginning of the video, but I wasn't quite ready. I didn't have my notes up. So, looking at the Thursday night game, Kansas City versus Denver, just an absolute thriller of a game. And I don't think there's like a whole lot to take away from this, but the one thing that we really wanted to get a better look at, I think, at least I did, was Rashee Rice. And, I mean, he had a good day. He had 9.2 fantasy points in half PPR formats. This was thanks to a very efficient day on 4 targets, and that's the downside. Only had 4 targets, but on the upside, he was super efficient with them, put up some good, a solid enough day, and he also was on the field for about half of the snaps. He's had a similar percentage of snaps 2 out of the first 5 weeks, and now 3 out of the last 4 weeks, so things overall are trending up, but it hasn't been super consistent yet, and we still would like to see that rise further than that. It's going to be pretty hard to be reliable in fantasy on that kind of snap share. Given this offense, if we can get that up to about 70% snap share, if we could start to see like 7 targets a game consistently for him, that would be great. I just wonder if maybe we're chasing something that won't quite happen. Plan on holding on to him for several weeks. I don't think it's something that you're going to be able to trust him, as of right now for next week. But in these nice matchups like against Denver, you can always throw him out there and hope for the best at least. All right, we've got the running backs up over there now, and here's the injury report. Arizona, Keontae Ingram is in. He is good to go, which is not great for Amari DeMarcado. Is going to be a tougher start to trust him this week. There is a fair amount of uncertainty surrounding how that backfield will end up working out between the two of them. So I have moved Amari down a few spots in my rankings. Not very far, but he's gone from someone that I would feel comfortable starting to someone that I would be a little bit scared to start. And Marquise Brown is questionable for Arizona this week. Then for the Buffalo Bills, Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid are both questionable going into the weekend here. Dalton has a concussion that it seems like he might be the first guy to return from a Sunday concussion the following week. I wouldn't bet on Dalton Kincaid being out there, but he's as good of a shot as anybody yet. Then Dawson Knox has whatever's wrong with his wrist if he is a go, and Dalton is not. He is a solid play. You can check out my rankings on the website for where I have him ranked. Oh, by the way, there we go. That's something I forgot about. All my rankings up on the website, www.theffforge.com. You can see, I think that's right below me, and down in the description there is a link to the website, and you can also see my final rankings up here live Sunday morning, half hour or maybe a little bit more than that, prior to the morning game, the London game, or if it's in another city, my bad, but the overseas game, and 1 hour prior to kickoff of the main slate of the morning games. I'll be here to answer any start-sit questions, and of course, if you have any start-sit questions, you can also ask them in the comments. I get it, but I'd like it if you stopped by and said hello. Then going on to Carolina Panthers, Miles Sanders is out with the shoulder injury. It is not expected to be a long-term issue, for whatever that's worth. Chuba Hubbard is a solid running back to start this week. I have him ranked right behind. Well, you can see where I have him ranked right there. So you can see who he's around. Don't have to list off the names I wrote down. Chicago Bears, Khalil Herbert is out with a hamstring injury, and if you didn't catch it, he is also on IR now, so if you have an IR spot available, move on down there and get yourself a flyer or look ahead a week. There's a lot of bye weeks next week in week 7. Quarterback, DST, tight end, fill up a spot with somebody that's got a good matchup. You won't have to fight for him on the waiver wire next week. Roschon Johnson is also out with a concussion. He unfortunately did not suffer a mild concussion. I don't think he ended up practicing at all this week. So hopefully that looks better next week for him. Travis Homer, their other running back that was active last week, their third running back that was active, also out, which leaves the guy that was on their practice squad, Foreman, who I like quite a bit. I think he's a good running back. And this week, I think he's a solid RB2 start. I have him ranked. You can see I have him right behind Chuba Hubbard if you're having trouble finding him over there. And you found Chuba before. Then Cincinnati, the early set of games, which is important because T. Higgins is questionable, and apparently it is a game time decision. As far as I can tell, it's leaning towards he is going to be a go. But we'll see. You can check out my rankings. Maybe he'll be up on the screen in a little bit. But they're always up on the website to see where I have him ranked. Then Cleveland Browns, Deshaun Watson has been ruled out. David Njoku is questionable with burns. Coach Stefanski was optimistic about him, though, and he played last week with 2 days after it had happened, this injury that burned him. One thing to note is that the starting left guard, Joel Bitonio, is also ruled out. It's not really a good week to be trusting the playmakers here for fantasy football of the Cleveland Browns going up against a tough defense. Backup quarterback, stud left guard is out. I don't really like him a whole lot this week. And for the Detroit Lions, Sam Laporta is questionable, and he is likely to play after having a calf injury that flared up on him Wednesday. If you have him and Evan Ingram or like Dallas Goedert, 2 guys that I have immediately behind him in my rankings, I wouldn't be opposed to just playing it safe, playing them over him. But otherwise, I would just roll with Sam Laporta and hope for the best. Jahmyr Gibbs is out again with his hamstring. Could be another 1 or 2 weeks with that. Might be back. We'll find out in the future. All right, moving on. I have my wide receivers now over there onto Houston. Tank Dell is questionable with his concussion. I haven't been ranking him all week. If he plays, he's fine as a wide receiver 3 option, but it's not a great matchup, and he is not high up among those wide receiver 3 options for me. Robert Woods is questionable with a rib injury, and I currently have him ranked right around that same range that I was thinking I would put Tank Dell if he was active this week. A little bit lower than Tank Dell, though. Moving on to Jacksonville, Zay Jones has been ruled out with that knee injury again. And for the Miami Dolphins, Jeff Wilson is doubtful to be returning and getting his season started this week, which means that I won't be moving Mostart down in my rankings, and Salvon Ahmed is usable. The backfield looks similar to it did in week 1, where Salvon Ahmed received a 28% snap share, which isn't great, but it is enough against an opponent like Carolina, who kind of sucks against the run, and especially when you have an offense like Miami. So I do think that Salvon Ahmed is usable. Still, he is no slam dunk. You don't need to be putting him over there, out there over, some guys. You can check the rankings, but I have him ranked right behind Tyler Algier and ahead of Justice Hill, if you might have caught that while I had the running backs up there. Moving on to New England, Juju Smith-Schuster and Jamario Douglas. Both wide receivers have both been ruled out. On to New Orleans, Juwan Johnson is probably out again. Oh, I never looked up. He didn't practice all week, as far as I recall. And onto the New York Giants, Daniel Jones has also been ruled out. Saquon Barkley has his ankle injury that he is recovering from and is still questionable to be returning this week. I have moved him further back in my rankings since the video that I did for my running back rankings, FYI. So check out the rankings to see just how far back I moved him back if you have him. And Darren Waller with his groin injury is questionable for the weekend. I haven't really heard how likely he is or is not to go. New York Jets. Philadelphia's cornerback. Okay, so getting to the New York Jets, but we'll set this up by letting you know that Philadelphia's cornerback Darius Slay and defensive tackle Jalen Carter are out, and it appears that Fletcher Cox will be returning, but he may not be returning. I still think that you're probably going to be starting the Philadelphia's DST, but assuming that Fletcher Cox does return, there's really no changing to the rankings for Breece Hall for me. If he were to be out, if both of them are out, so Jalen Carter's out, so if if Fletcher Cox does not return, then I would actually be semi-excited to start Breece Hall, where I'm not really. I'm a little bit hesitant to start him this week. Still have him ranked 17th among my running backs, so you're probably starting him. And Darius Slay has actually played quite poorly this year via the PFF rankings, or how they have him rated. He has a 50.6 coverage grade. So there is a chance that rookie Keely Ringo or I think they brought up Bradley Roby are going to be getting more playing time, which may work out in favor of, may not work out, I should say, in favor of the Jets passing game. And Keely Ringo specifically is someone who could make a big splash play. He's a fast dude. I think, didn't he make one in week 1? Anyways, I didn't end up moving Garrett Wilson up in my rankings. Either way, he is a must start in 3 wide receiver leagues and a solid wide receiver 2 or flex play in 2 wide receiver leagues. But the main point there is that just because Darius Slay is not playing, that doesn't mean all of a sudden Garrett Wilson's like a must start or anything like that. We weren't too afraid of that matchup. And to wrap the injury report up, Elijah Mitchell once again questionable with that knee injury. So fire up your Christian McCaffreys this week, folks. All right, and we've got the tight ends over there for the DFS portion of the show. Oh, I didn't. Okay, I'll leave them up there for a minute here. You might have to pause if you want to look a little bit closer, longer, or you could just go up on the website. But I had 3 lineups last week, and the one that I gave you was the worst of the bunch. And to be fair, I did have Justin Jefferson in that lineup, so that didn't help, because he got injured. Also, in that lineup, I put New Orleans defense in there. And so if you ended up following up with that, they were quite fire, so you are welcome for that. All right, so we have the lineup on the screen over there, and starting off at 6,300, I felt like Joe Burrow, he felt like a deal, and I'm not the most trustworthy of him being, back after last week's performance, even though it was great, and a sign that maybe we're there, but I don't know yet. I still want to see it for one more week, but I'm willing to take a shot on it at the price of 6,300, so that's what I did. And of course, when you go look down at my top wide receiver here, I did match him up with his favorite target, Jamar Chase. And at running back, I went with Tyler Algier at 4,600 and Raheem Mostert at 60. I never say Mostert. Raheem Mostert at 6,400. Going on to the wide receivers, I wanted to get Adam Thielen into this lineup at $5,900. He seems like a good deal for what he could offer you. And of course, Kendrick Bourne comes up again here at 4,200. Gonna put my money. It's a free entry for this one, but my money where my mouth is. Big tournament lineup here, and a tight end TJ Hawkinson in at $6,600 for him. I think it's worth to spend up for him amongst the tight ends this week. And in that flex, I had enough left for Christian Kirk. Chose everything else before I chose my flex. 5,400. That seemed like a pretty good buy. So just a heads up on Christian Kirk. That's I think a pretty good price there. And at DST, I saved some money with the Cleveland Browns. At 2,200, taking a risk on him. I did have $100 left over that maybe I could have spent up elsewhere. Maybe Cleveland can turn Purdy over, get 6 points for me, and be a plus down there. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please like, comment, subscribe if you did like, if you want to comment, or if you want to subscribe. Peace out. What a great outro.